Hey everybody, before we begin today, a quick announcement. This is episode 37 and it's going to be the final episode of season 0 for Otherworld. I know that sounds bad, but it's actually good news. We're going to be taking a very quick break and then coming back bigger and better than ever. I will explain that in more details at the end of this episode, so stay tuned. After the story's over, I have some exciting announcements. Welcome to Otherworld. I'm your host, Jack Wagner. This episode comes from a guy named Dennis who had a terrifying experience in the woods that he wrote in to me about. Dennis is currently a lawyer, and so is the person he was on this trip with where he experienced all of it. He seems like a really factual, by-the-book, research type guy, and I know he hesitated for a while before sending this in. And what's interesting about this one is how much time he's spent in the woods before all of this happened. He was a Boy Scout, he's climbed mountains, he's spent a huge amount of time outdoors. In fact, I think once you hear him talk for just a couple minutes, you'll be able to tell how much of a nature nerd he is. This is not the type of guy who gets spooked in the woods. Quite the opposite. I could tell he feels very in control when he's outdoors, and he's spent so much of his life out there without any incident, except for this one. And while interviewing him, I could tell how much it still scares him all these years later and confuses him. I'm gonna let him tell the story for himself. This is episode 37. The title is The Salmon River Creature, and you're listening to Otherworld.
Yes, it is.
We're still roll?
Yeah, let us know when you're ready.
Okay.
Salmon in the Pacific Island.
This is a story about.
All right, I guess I'll just jump right in. So a little bit of background. I work as a lawyer. I'm in New York City now. It's a big change for me. I grew up in Syracuse, New York, which is like 4.5 hours upstate. We joke that, a lot of people, like New York City people, you say upstate, they think like Westchester County, and like they just don't realize that this huge like swath of territory exists. Syracuse, it's like a city of like 100,000 people. It's not small. It's smaller than it used to be, like a lot of abandoned factories. But one of the things I like about it is it's very much a city, but you can drive like 45 minutes in any direction and just be in like the ass middle of the woods if you want to. I've been all over like the wilderness up there. I've climbed probably 19-20 of the high peaks in the Adirondacks, which is relatively nearby. I sort of got interested in, outdoorsy things up there when I was a Boy Scout. I didn't get very far in my dad was an Eagle Scout. I think he was always a little disappointed. I didn't really get far in the Boy Scout hierarchy, but I did develop a passion for camping, like all seasons, all weather, particularly backpacking. Like I love the idea of like walking into the woods with only what's on your back and like that's what you've got. This was not that kind of camping trip. My friend Kate, I've known her, I'm not even sure how long I've known her. She's like a core memory type friend, like since we were little children. I'm very close with her family. She's like a second daughter to my parents practically. And she was also sort of into this, outdoor lifestyle. I know she did ROTC for a little bit. Like she knows her shit. I was always very comfortable, going into the woods with her. And we were friends through, late elementary, middle, high school. And at the end of high school, she had just, I think at this point I was taking college classes, but like I was sort of like iffy about like, is this what I want? You know, obviously I did end up finishing. I went to law school and all of that. And, you know, the more I become a confirmed member of the bureaucracy, the more I like appreciate this sort of ability to like run off to the woods periodically. There's just something nice about like throwing your phone like in your bag and being like, no reception out here. But anyway, at this point in our lives, you know, we were both kind of like, is this what we want to be doing? Like, she had just gone to college in Philadelphia and realized it wasn't for her, and come home and was like, you know, feeling, I think, a little bit like a washout. She's not. She did like a semester at community college and ended up going to Cornell. Like, she's really, really smart. But both of us were kind of feeling like, you know, teenage 20-something dirtbags at this point in our lives. And a way that we would deal with that is we knew all of these little camping spots from, you know, growing up in this area. We knew like, oh yeah, you drive, you know, up 81, you get off at this like little bumblefuck exit and like drive down a country road for a while, you'll find a cool spot. And we'd like sort of like trade these spots back and forth between us. Like if one of us heard about something, we'd be like, oh, we gotta go check this place out. And there's some creepy spots up there too. There's this one spot called Whiskey Hollow that like there's a natural spring. Like people go there to get water from it, but like there's also like a bunch of weird like almost intentionally planted like tree arrangements and stuff. And there's like legends that there were like witches covens that met there and stuff. It's probably bullcrap, but it was fun to camp at. But anyway, I have no idea how she found out about this spot. The spot where all of this went down is like probably one of the most remote places I've ever camped, which is surprising because like you can drive to it. Like I've gone on trips where like, you know, if you want to get to the site, you have to hike like, you know, 13 miles into the woods with all your stuff on your back, but like you'll still see like 15, 20 people when you get there. This was not that kind of place. Like it was a catch basin, which I'm not really sure what its purpose is. I know that it's on the Salmon River, which is a river that is north of Syracuse, probably like an hour drive to get to the river itself. But what we would do is we'd take the highway up and then we'd get off and then, you know, find our way down some like dusty country roads. So how this thing was oriented is you would drive down this county route. I'm not sure which route it is. Miles from the highway. It'd get really, really quiet. Like in the dark, I swear to God, there was like pitch black. Like there was your headlights and nothing else. Like, you know, you'd pass a trailer park, maybe a couple scattered like farmhouses, and then there'd be like no structures. I'd estimate like this place was probably like 10 miles from the nearest like man-made structure. And then there was this little like, what I would guess is like either an access road for the DEC or like maybe an old logging road. And like if you didn't know where it was, you'd totally miss it. It's like just a little turn off. It looks like an accident like off of this county route. And this road is like crazy bumpy. Like potholes does not describe it. It's just like it was probably never like leveled by machinery, and it never will be. And she had this crappy little Honda Accord, rest in peace, I loved that car, that was, you know, perpetually sort of like holding on to life. And we take these trips because like we were both kind of feeling like burnouts at this point in our life, and like this was our escape. You'd be like, you know, run off to the woods for a day or two. You know, we'd throw the tent in the car. We'd bring almost always her border collie Lucas, who was like, I think at that point he was like fairly old, but he was so protective of her. And like, because I had been around and in her life for so long, he's very protective of me too. Like we used to joke, like we were his flock, like we were his sheep, and he would like, he didn't like it if we'd like stand more than like 20 feet apart and have a conversation. He'd like try to herd us closer together. So we'd take him, we'd take, food, hot dogs, like beers. And when I say beers, I mean like we'd take like 1 6-pack. Like we were kids, functionally. And we would just drive out to these sites. Like I remember some nights like we would do this like so slapdash that there were a couple times where we like didn't even bring a tent. Like we just slept in sleeping bags like on the ground in some woods. And on this occasion, she's like taking me down this road and I'm like, where the fuck are we? Like this is really weird. Like I don't think we're supposed to be here. And like we objectively weren't. It was DEC land. We were trespassing. It was owned by the state for, whatever they did there, whether it's like fisheries or something to do with the dam. And you'd go down this road, this really bumpy road with like very dense, like thickety woods on both sides of you, like impenetrable woods at night. Like you could not see past the road. So we tried to get there in the day usually, but we'd come down this road and then like there would be like a little pad, like a little like hand packed leveled pad, and we'd park there. And then if you just like accidentally drove down this road, like you would never guess that there was a spot to camp down here. You'd get to that, you'd be like, well, this is dumb. But if you knew to go through this like copse of woods at the edge of this little, I don't even want to call it a parking lot, like that's what we used it for, but it was like not a proper parking lot. You would come to this like basin, this like open sort of pond that was clearly man-made. And it was connected to a big old stream, which I assume is like a tributary of the river, by this like huge, like big enough to swim through concrete pipe with probably like 15, 20 feet in diameter. And the edge of the little pond, the little basin, was made up of dirt that was like packed over this thing. And you'd walk across that, like there was only enough space on this thing probably to walk single file. And it was just like this perfect little idyllic, super secluded camping spot on the edge of this little pond. And it was absolutely surrounded on all sides by like really, really dense foliage. Like you were so private from the road. So anyway, this site was like our favorite place to go after she took me there, because it had, we could swim in the pond. There was like a nice place to like lay out and get some sun. There was a good spot for a fire pit, although we always, like, we never saw signs of other people camping there. Like usually when you find a site, like even a backcountry site, like an unofficial site, you'll usually be able to be like, oh yeah, that was a fire ring. You'll find tent stakes that people have left behind, but like we never saw anything like that. We'd always have to build our own fire pit, and we'd always take it apart before we left because we didn't want to like advertise that we were using it. So that's what we did. We would come here, probably like once, twice a month for a while. It was like our go-to spot. And after probably about a dozen times of using this is like when all of this went down, which was extremely strange. I say that only to say, like, we had gone here enough that we were like super comfortable with it. We were like, oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with this spot. Like no one's ever going to find us here. Like it's really secluded. It's our little secret. So one day we go out there. I remember it was like a particularly good camping trip too. Like we were having fun. We were, roasting. I think I was like fancy and like I didn't even get hot dogs. I like got sausages, and we were grilling sausages over the fire. We had been swimming all day. Lucas, who didn't usually like to go in the water, had like come in the water with me. And we had like one big tent. Sometimes we'd bring our own. Sometimes I'd bring my hammock and she'd sleep in the tent. But like on this occasion, it had been like kind of last minute. So we just brought her big tent and we were both going to sleep in it in our sleeping bags. So we're winding down. There's really not much to do that far out, like after it gets dark, than like go to sleep. So we've had our dinner. It's dark out. We're getting bored of sitting by the fire. So we're like, let's go to bed. But like this whole time, like as soon as it got dark, like Lucas just started acting really weird. He was ordinarily like until the day he died, he was like the happiest dog you'd ever meet. Like very anxious, because like border collies are like anxious dogs. But he really was not anxious in this place. Like he loved this site almost more than we did. We would have him on what you call a hunting leash, or what she'd call a hunting leash, which was like he'd have his harness on, but like literally it was just like a 20-foot nylon rope tied to this harness, and like it's designed to like let him go and like just run, and like, you know, you can get a hand on him if you need to for safety reasons, but like otherwise he was a free man when he was in this little copse of woods. And he loved that. There were like tons of squirrels to chase. There were like fish to look at. He was a very curious boy, and he really, really liked this spot. So as soon as it gets dark though, like he just gets like super, super anxious. Like he's like, I don't know if you've heard, like dogs will do like, you know, the little whine, like, like when they're just not sure of something. And he was doing that a lot. And he was like particularly sort of like staring at the tree line. I would see him get like, you know, anxious in the city sometimes, like, you know, with road noise and all that, he'd get a little overwhelmed, but like out in the woods, never. He was always like thrilled to be there. Like he knew the dirt road. And like when we'd turn onto the dirt road, he'd like get really excited and start bouncing around the back seat usually. And the whole time he was there, usually he was very, very chill. He liked to just vibe with the whole place usually. And that's the thing too, is like the sort of part of the idea of bringing him, at least the first couple times, was like, you know, he's aware of stuff we're not. Like he can let us know if something's up. And he never alerted us to anything before this night. Like he was always like, no, this is a great place. I'm happy to be here. You know, and as far as a border collie can communicate that. But this night he was like glued to Kate. He was like heeling, like right up against her leg for a lot of it. He would like sniff around the tree line a little bit and then like come right back and like heel against her and whine. And she was like, you know, petting him, trying to reassure him, like, there's nothing there, it's fine. And she even said to me, I think, she was like, he's being weird. But, you know, that in and of itself didn't really raise any alarm bells for us.
Okay, we have to take a quick break, but we will be right back. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes life can throw things at you that are hard to process. If you listen to the show, I'm sure you know that's true. Whether you witness something beyond human comprehension, or you're going through a rough patch, or just have something you need to talk about and not the right person to talk about it with, a licensed therapist can help. Lots of people go through difficult times and put off getting therapy for a number of reasons. They think they don't need it, they're too self-conscious, they don't know where to start, they procrastinate, or they've tried and they can't find a therapist. If you've been thinking about starting, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online and super easy to start. You just fill out a questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. There's a lot of people out there who know deep down therapy would probably help them, but are too stubborn to start. This is a great way to rip the Band-Aid off and finally do it. Let therapy be your map with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/otherworld to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/otherworld.
I think this would have been in August. So it is still very hot, but like it's getting dark earlier. And this particular night, like it seemed like night just felt like a freaking blanket. Like, I don't attribute that to anything really, except that it was late August, but like, it got dark, and like, there was really like not a lot of time between like, oh, it's light out and oh, it's pitch black. And I think that was part of our impetus to just like go to bed. Like, there's really nothing to see. So, you know, I pour water on the fire, I kick the ashes, make sure it's out cold. And then, you know, we zip up in our tent. I'm out like a light. I often am when I'm camping. Like, I have problems sleeping a lot of it the time. Like, I'm very prone to insomnia normally, but like when I'm out in the woods, when I'm like getting fresh air, when I'm doing physical things, like I tend to just like drop out cold. Probably like, I want to say like 3 a.m. I'm like, I sort of come out of sleep, and like Kate's like over me, and she's like, there's something outside the tent. Like, there is something outside the tent. I need you to wake up. Like, there's something very close to the tent. And our tent was like pretty close to the tree line here. It was probably like 7 or 8 feet from where the tree started. And the area that it was placed close to was like trees, and then in front of it and like around them was like really thick like pricker bushes. You know, not nice to try to walk through. So we didn't, but we figured, you know, we'll put it at the edge of the site over here. Anyway, she's trying to shake me awake and telling me that she's hearing stuff out of the tent. And I'm thinking, you know, whatever, it's coy dogs. Like, this is an area of the state that I know very well, and like she knows very well. And there's really just not a lot of like large predators or predators, period, in this area. Like, there's not bobcats. There's like black bears are almost non-existent. Like, I guess it's theoretically possible that like a black bear could wander down this fall during like salmon season, but like there are parts of this river that are like way closer to the mountains that are like way easier for black bears to get to. Like a black bear would have to be pretty lost. So I'm thinking it's coy dogs. Like, the main thing in this area is coy dogs. And I distinctly remember like I pulled away from her kind of and like rolled over and like tried to go back to sleep. And she like will not stop. She was like shaking me, and she's like, no, it's not a coy dog. Like, I don't know what it is, but like it's right by the tent. Like, it's in the woods. It's in this stand of trees, like right by the tent. I'm like, whatever, I'll get up and I'll see what it is. So normally Lucas would have been like, you know, let's go. I'm going to handle this. Like, I'll help you scare them off. He would have been like barking like right at the tent flap, but he's like curled up, like terrified. And another thing I noticed was like his fur was like up. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard the term hackles, but it's like the little like patch of fur like on their back right in the middle. And if you sufficiently startle a dog, like that will just stick up straight. And I don't think I'd ever seen him do that before, but his hackles were up. And I'm like, all right, okay, maybe it's a bear. So I've got this mess kit. Like, it's this really stupid, like, Boy Scout-ishy mess kit that we all had. So I exit the tent. I've got a flashlight, and I've got the 2 hemispheres of this thing. And Kate comes out of the tent with me. Like, she puts Lucas's hunting leash on, and she comes out with me. And the instant they're out of the tent, Lucas is like away. He's like straining against the leash. He's like trying to pull her away from the noise and towards the direction of the car, like back across this little bridge over the concrete pipe. He's like trying to get us to leave. And like more than trying to get us to leave, he's like putting his whole like body weight into it. And she's like struggling to hold him. And when I get out of the tent, you know, I could hear something sort of when she was in the tent trying to shake me. Like, I heard rustling, and I heard like breathing. Like, not even breathing, like sniffling, like something like snuffling around on the ground. And that's what made me think it was koi dogs. But as I'm like coming out of this tent, I can like hear it more clearly, and I can hear that like whatever this is like big, like way bigger than a koi dog, like at least a couple 100 pounds. It's like I can hear the footfalls, and it's like snapping twigs and stuff, like. And that was the first thing that was weird to me, is like, this thing's not trying to be quiet. And like, sometimes bears are not super concerned about whether or not they're making noise, but like pretty much every other nocturnal animal I'm aware of, especially in this area, is like trying to be quiet usually. But this thing was not. It was like, it seriously sounded like it was just like bumbling around in this bush. So I'm like, what is it? What is this thing? Like, it's got to be a bear. It's got to be a bear. Like, nothing else would be making this much noise. At this point, this is like a practiced reflex for me. I take the two halves of my mess kit and I start banging them together. I'm like, get out of here. Like, go on. And I'm expecting I'm going to hear it turn tail and, scurry off, because that's typically what they do. But whatever it is starts making this noise. Like this fucked up noise. Like I can't replicate it. It was like very like guttural and like growly. It almost like, I don't know if you've ever heard like a dog that's about to throw up. Like, it's like if you could make that as a sustained noise, like but so much like deeper, and like it. Like, the best way I could describe this noise as it was unnatural, and it was like deeply threatening. It was clearly some sort of like, I don't want you here. It was hostile. And I'm like, I don't know what this thing is, but I want it gone. I want it away from the campsite. Like, I don't know what you are. I don't care what you are. So I start like pushing towards the bushes, like getting closer and like trying to be louder, like banging the pots and pans faster, like yelling louder, like, go on, get out of here, like, fuck off. And I'm like, it is not having the desired effect. It's having the opposite of the desired effect. This thing is just getting louder and angrier. Like, the louder and angrier I get, it's just reflecting this energy back at me. And it sounds like, at one point, like, I think when I was talking about it with Kate after, she was like, it sounded like it wanted to kill you. In as far as we can, like, attribute feelings to this thing, we don't know what it was. Like, it sounded like it was really mad at you. So eventually, I'm like, what the hell is this thing, in an area where there's not supposed to be any predators? What is this, like, thing that is not afraid of me? So I grabbed my, I had like a little mag light with like a belt holster on my jeans, and a like maybe this long, like 6-inch long mag light. And I pull it out of my little belt holster and I twist it to turn it on. And I like hold it up like over my shoulder, like overhand. And I'm like, what the hell are you? And here's the thing. And this is like, in my opinion, the most disappointing part of this story is like, I couldn't see it. Like, I had my light right on it. Like, my light should have hit whatever this was, like, square in the face based on where this noise was coming from. But I could not get a good look at this thing. And what I did see was, I saw the bushes it was in, and I saw a dark shape, like just a huge, broader than my shoulders are across by a good margin shape. And when my light hit it, it was probably like 4.5 feet tall, maybe, based on like the bushes I was looking at. But as my light hits it, it just like rises up, almost like it had been on all fours, and like was now like standing up on its hind legs, or I didn't see legs, I don't know, standing up on its hind whatever. It was probably, I mean, and this is just estimating based on like the outline I saw. Like, it was the damnedest thing. Like, I had my light right on it, but like you could not get a good look at it. It was almost like, instead of being lit from like the direction I was lighting it, it was almost like it was backlit instead. Like, you couldn't make out any features, but it was probably like, it had to be at least 7 feet tall, standing up like that. You know, it was wider than me by like almost a factor of 2. In terms of like where where I think I saw like shoulders, and its limbs were like, you know, splayed out to the side of it when it stood up like this. Like, and I can't really wrap my head around too much of what I saw, but like the limbs were like freakishly long, like wrong, like uncanny valley, like not human proportions, not bear proportions, just like too long, you know? And the entire time it's making this like blood curdling noise. And when it stood up, I did get a whiff of like, it smelled bad. It smelled like BO and like garbage, basically. It smelled rough. It was it was a gag-inducing smell that this thing had. And I don't know if that was like just what it smelled like, if that was its breath, but like it was huge. It was angry. It had these like really messed up proportions. That's the thing though, is like I can tell you it was dark colored. Like, I can't tell you if it was furry or not. Like, I can't tell you if it was like the sort of thing that walked on 2 legs normally and was like, you know, did this all the time. Or if it was like quadrupedal and like was standing up to intimidate me like a bear would. But its limbs were just like wrong. And it made this gesture where it put its arms out. And it was like, it's sort of like the gesture of like, if you've seen like people, you know, get into like a fight outside a bar where they're just like, what? Like, come at me. Like, this thing was spoiling for a fight. Like, I can't exactly like tell you its motivations because I don't know what it was, but like everything about this thing's body language and behavior was like, I will fight you, like, and I will win. Get out of here. And we ran. I really like pride myself on not being afraid of things in the woods, because like, are there things to be afraid of in the wilderness? Absolutely. Is it ever worthwhile to panic? Never. Like, I forget the old adage, but like, it's like, you'll just die tired. Like, predators in the woods, I was always taught, like, will pick up on, you know, your emotions, and like, they will tell if you're panicked, and like, if you're panicked, that will embolden them, which is why, like, with a bear, you don't run from it, you always confront it. And like, you know, I lived in Colorado for a while. That was like, the whole thing with a mountain lion is like, you know, you yell at it and like, you let it know that you see it so that it doesn't think it's got the drop on you. I mean, with a mountain lion, it's kind of pointless. Like, if a mountain lion wants to kill you, like, it will, and you probably won't even know it till it's over. But like, this is upstate New York. Like, there are no mountain lions here. There's not even supposed to be any bears here. There's just this thing. And I cannot to this day tell you, and I don't know if she could either, like, which one of us said it, but like, one of us just went, run! And we were gone. Like, we left everything. If it wasn't the dog or in our pockets, it was like, screw it, we'll get a new one. we all like piled into this car. I mean, it was a Honda Accord. It was a 2-seater. Like, we were just like jamming ourselves into this thing, like Dukes of Hazzard style. And Kate is like flooring it up this like really, really bumpy road. Like, it is a miracle we didn't like go into a pothole and go out of control and hit a tree. Because like her car, she would ordinarily drive down this thing at like 5 miles an hour max. Because like we would have to go like, you know, into and out of like big divots and all of that. And she's flying. She's just like, I can hear like the bottom of the car like crunching against the ground. Lucas is in the back seat at this point, and he's like, every hair on his body is just like spiked. And he's still whimpering, and he's like visibly like shaking, like adrenaline shaking. And I assume so was I. But like, I have never been terrified by something in the woods like that. I'd like to say, you know, I've never been terrified by something in the woods, period. Like, I was taught well. Like, I was taught there's always an explanation. You know, they're always more afraid of you than you are of them. Like, never show panic. There's always a way forward. But there was no way forward with this thing. There was no, I was going to scare it off. There was just, it wanted us gone, and, you know, it would have done whatever it took to get us gone, is what it felt like. Anyway, we drove, I don't know how long, but eventually we made it to a town and that happened to have a McDonald's, and we just sat in this like well-lit McDonald's parking lot like all night. We didn't sleep a wink. But the whole time, like, we were just sitting in the car. For a long time, we sat there like in silence. And then I think Kate spoke up finally, and she was like, that wasn't a bear. Like, I don't know what that was. And I was like, come on, like, we got to be able to figure this out. Like, let's go through every like animal we know. Like, we've both been camping here all our lives. Like, and we couldn't come up with anything. Like, nothing would be that big. Nothing would be that aggressive. And the thing that like really freaks me out, like to this day, the thing that spooks me is something she pointed out like after the fact. Like, we were sitting there and she just goes, you know, did you see eye shine when you shined your light? Like, did you see any eye shine at all? Because I didn't. And I was thinking, and I was like, no, I didn't see eye shine. Like, I didn't see anything. I didn't see like where its eyes would be. Like, if you like, you know, if your dog or cat is in a dark room at night, and you look over at it, like it'll have the glowing eyes. You know, if you're like backlit. Like, everyone's seen that at some time or another. And like, pretty much that is what animals do. Like, all of them have this, you know, I know the DEC like literally will like categorize animals by like shining a spotlight into the woods at night and being like, let's count the eyes. You know, I've seen people I've backpacked with do that, like identify things by like the return from the eye shine. This thing didn't have any. Like, that's what really, really screwed with me. And I mean, again, we're like 10 miles away from the nearest structure. So, yeah, we were at a complete loss. We were like, I was literally sitting in her car with her, like, trying to like play animal sounds on YouTube. Like, is it this? No, not even close. Is it this? No. Like, the one thing we found that like was maybe close was like a bobcat in heat, but like it was way deeper and bassier and like more aggressive than that. And also, there are no bobcats in that area at all. Like, it's like hundreds of miles to like anywhere that would have bobcats. So we were at a complete loss. But the next day we were like, you know, the sun came up, we were feeling a little bit better. And we were like, we got to go back and get our stuff. Like, it's like a tent, like 2 relatively nice sleeping bags, like all of our cooking stuff, all of our, camping stuff, all of our gear. So I get back in the car, like I, go into McDonald's to pee, like get some coffee for both of us. And I come back and I get out in the car. I'm like, all right, I guess it's not going to get any easier to go back. We might as well do it in daylight. So, we drive to this place, like basically in silence, because we're both just like very unnerved. And we go down the logging road. I believe Kate actually, like, she had a little can of mace in her glove compartment. She like pulled that out. And we're like, all right, let's go see like what the damage is. And we go back and our campsite is like, by the way, I should mention, like, Lucas he wouldn't even get out of the car. Like, he started whining on the logging road, and like he just stayed like in the car with the windows down. Like, he didn't want to get out, and we were not going to make him. We get back and our site is like exactly the way we left it. Like, the flap is still just like partially unzipped from when we came out. Like, our sleeping bags are still in the exact same orientation. Like, our food is all still in the tent. I think we had a leftover beer or two. They're still in there. And like, the site has not been tossed. Like, it hasn't been gone through. There's no footprints. There's no, animal, man or otherwise. There's no like sign that anyone was there. There's like some crushed down like areas of bush where it was, but like there's no like fur caught on the bushes or like anything like that. Like, there's just no clues. It was almost like it didn't happen. And I remember looking at her, I was like, did I imagine this? Like, there was definitely something here last night, right? And she was like, yeah, there 100% was, but like, I can't tell you, looking at it now, I couldn't tell you there was something there. So we just gathered up all our stuff and we're like, this makes even less sense than it did before. If it was people, they absolutely would have like taken all of this like valuable camping gear, or like, at least the beers. If it was animals, like, they 100% would have eaten the food. Like, I would expect to find like the sausages we had left over, like ripped up, the packaging all ripped up all over the site. Because, that's happened to us before, and that's how that goes down. But there is nothing. It looked like it literally just like showed up, ran us off, and left. And we were like quiet the whole drive home. Except at one point, Kate was like, we can't go there anymore. Like, we're never camping there again. I didn't talk about it outside of Kate for a long time, and I don't think she's like talked about it with anybody. I was texting with my parents last night, and they were like, oh, what are you doing tomorrow? And I was like, oh, I'm gonna be doing an interview for a podcast. And they were like, about what? And I realized I never even told my parents. The people I've talked to about it who have like given me the most pushback on it, I think that they reject it and like try to throw labels on it that don't fit, because the alternative is admitting that they don't know everything. The woods are big. Like, if you think you know everything that's in there, like, you're wrong. One thing I did try is Syracuse has a pretty big native population. The Onondaga Reservation actually like butts right up against the like city limits of Syracuse. I've got a couple friends with like, various amounts of native ancestry, and I've only ever like approached like one or two of them about it. And like, every person I've asked about it has like it instantly gotten like kind of cagey. Like, I don't want to talk about this with you. Obviously I don't want to pry. There are topics that are just avoided because, like, giving them any amount of airtime in your thoughts or speech is, like, going to draw their attention. So I don't know if that's it. I don't know if they're just like, this crazy white guy. Like, I don't want to talk about this with him. Why does he think I know? It's just, there's not a lot of answers. But yeah, I mean, if you could find somebody willing to share insights, like, I would be very interested to hear that.
My name is Frank Buffalo Hyde from the Onondaga Nation. I grew up equal time in Syracuse, New York on the Onondaga Nation and Santa Fe, New Mexico. People have been seeing strange things on our reservation. Every season behind my mother's house, it's a heavily wooded area. We hear like trees being knocked together, and it's either like right after dark or just before it gets light out, rustling in the bushes, and then you would hear something that sounded like either trees knocking together or them, large loud snaps, like really deep thuds. And then in the next day we would go check them out, and there would be like these weird patterns in the weeds, like something was laying or rolling around. And then some of these like kind of juvenile trees that aren't quite tall or thick yet have been like snapped off their stumps, like in the middle of the tree. So like something was rolling around or pushing trees, breaking trees off. We think there's something that comes back like every year at 2 times a year, usually when the seasons change. When we were building our family's log cabin, it was partially finished, and I think it was the first week that we were actually staying in there. And I got up to go to the bathroom and get something to drink, and I was walking past the living room window, and I happened to see these two tall figures. One was dark and one was light. They're almost like dogs, but they were wider and taller, and they were walking on their back legs. I stopped, and then I must have taken another step because they both turned over and looked at me. They dropped down on all fours and took off running across the yard. And I told other people about it, and they said they've seen similar things generationally through the years, running around the same part of the res. A couple times growing up, I heard something heavy jump on top of the trailer and then land and then run across the length of it and jump off. We went out to take a look, and it just snowed and there was no footprints. Being on the nation, like, we kind of know that there's dark entities and light entities that exist all in the same realm and other realms. I think we're just a little bit more open to that than other people in other reservations. I talk about shapeshifters, but I don't think they don't have anything like skinwalkers or anything around our nation. They just talk about people having the ability to do stuff like that, or alchemists or witches, something like that. I mean, that's the best translation anyway. Sometimes you feel like if you talk about something, you give it power and you bring it to you or call it to you and manifest it in a way. But I think there's certain things that we're taught not to really talk about because of that, because it might give it enough energy to manifest and happen again. We can't know everything about nature, and there's certain parts of nature that we haven't been able to touch yet, and there's things around us all the time and stuff that we know nothing about and shouldn't know anything about. So, yeah.
Okay. Thank you to Dennis for sharing the story. I also want to thank Frank Bearhide from the Onondaga Nation for talking with me. Also, thank you to Louie, who I also spoke with from Onondaga Nation. I actually spoke to a few people about this, and everyone gave me slightly different perspectives, but the specifics of certain rituals and beliefs are not something that I think is discussed with outsiders, and I want to respect that. And I don't think anyone I talked to knew for certain what Dennis saw. Dennis certainly doesn't know what it is, and I also don't have a guess. And I say that just to say that it seems genuinely outside the bounds of the stories that most of us are familiar with and these kind of categories of things that people are afraid of. I really don't know what it is and have specifically not put a label on it. And that's why I find all of it so unsettling. So thank you again to everybody who spoke to me for this story. So before we go, I have an announcement. At the beginning of the show, it was supposed to be 6 episodes long, basically a mini-series. And in those first episodes, I was calling it Season 0. It was really just a side project that I put out to see if anybody would even like it. I actually pitched Otherworld to a bunch of podcast networks last spring and got turned down. And I just decided to make it. It was only 6 episodes long. I was calling it Season 0 because I didn't think it was enough to even call Season 1. But thanks to all of you, the show has grown so much. There's been a lot of interest in it. It's honestly overwhelming, and I'm very grateful. I just signed a network deal to do many more episodes of Otherworld. Season 0 is coming to an end only because there are no more seasons. We're just going to keep going, which is great because there are still so many episodes that I've recorded that you haven't even heard yet. I'm very excited for this new chapter of the show. Everything about it is going to be the same team, same podcast, same everything, except for hopefully we're going to be growing it even bigger, getting some sponsors, and hopefully starting to pay some of the amazing friends I have helping me with something besides compliments. I'm going to take a brief break, and we'll be back July 10th with a big series that I've been working on for quite a bit. I hope you all like long ones because this story was over 9 hours of raw interviews. It tells the story of a horrible crime from the perspective of the person it happened to, and it also includes the paranormal aspects of it all that most likely would not be included if it were told on a normal show. So stay tuned for that. We're going to be back on July 10th. If you want to hear more episodes of Otherworld, you could always hear those on the Otherworld Patreon. But seriously, thank you to everybody that listens to this show. It's all so shocking, exciting, and overwhelming. And with that, I want to take a moment to thank some of the people individually who have helped me make Otherworld. I feel like there's this misconception with some listeners where I could tell they imagine this show being made in like a studio with a team and interns and like, organization, proper equipment and stuff. It's literally just me in my house on a laptop, usually in my pajamas, grinding away with the help of some incredible friends that I've talked into helping me out with this show. I could not have done it without them. I'm so incredibly grateful for them. So I want to thank some people. Thank you, first of all, to everybody who's ever told a story on this show. I'm so thankful to get to hear these stories in the first place and be trusted to tell them. A lot of times they're very sensitive and complicated stories, and it's really an honor to be able to tell them. I've gotten to know some of the guests really well in the process, and I'm just so thankful for every single one of them. Thank you, and keep them coming. Thank you to Cobraman for letting us use your song as a theme. Me and the singer of that band, Andy, were actually roommates in a warehouse a long time ago where we slept on the floor together in an arrangement sort of similar to how the grandparents slept in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Thank you to Cobraman for letting me use the song. Thank you to Colin Smite, who made the incredible cover art and logo for the show, among so many other things. Colin, you are such an incredible designer. I don't know how I could ever repay you for this. Thank you to Theo Schaefer for editing and mastering most of the episodes. He is slightly too handsome to be editing podcasts, so for that reason, I'm very grateful to have him and all of his help. Thank you to Patrick McDermott, aka North Americans. Everybody knows his music by now. He's one of my very good friends, and he's let me use his music so much over the years. He's also made some incredible original scores for this show, so thank you to Patrick. Thank you to Ben Morsberger, aka Juice Jackal, an incredible musician, and made probably more scores for the show than anybody else that you've heard. He used to be the guitarist of Blood Orange. He has many, many amazing side projects. Shout out to Ben for being an incredible musician and helping out so much in the show. Thank you to Treyer Tryon de la Torre, an amazing musician and one of my great friends. He has a very complicated last name that just got even more complicated after getting married. Thank you to Trey for making so much amazing music for the show. Also, thank you to Jeremy Malvin, aka Chrome Sparks, for making that synth music that you hear in the very beginning of every single show. Thank you to Theo Krantz for editing multiple episodes and putting up with me calling you Theo number 2. I'm sorry, it gets very confusing having 2 Theos editing the show. Thank you to Rose City Band, the Jacuzzi Boys, the Reds, Pinks, and Purples, the OCs, and all the bands that have let me use their music on the show over the years. Thank you to my now wife, Chelsea, for generally putting up with me, believing in me, and being down to get married to a guy whose only job is hosting a paranormal podcast that makes a negative amount of money. Thank you for being willing to do that and believing in me. Thank you to my cat Merlin for sitting next to me every time I do an interview, including some of the scariest ones that I've done. He's always right there by my side. Thank you to Phoebe Wilson, Ben Goldberg, and Oren Rosenbaum at UTA. Thank you to Eddie, Gabe, and Kai from Range, Nick and Duncan from Orienteer. Thank you to Fernando Miranda, Josh Chittarella, Sidhu, and Dr. Galal. Thank you to Hessa Denny, Matt Crouchtrunk, Lily West. Thank you to Lindsay Underwood, Taylor Lorenz, Evan Gilbert Katz. Thank you to Adam Baz and Sam Russell for letting me use your owl and some goats. Thank you to Wendy and her whole family. And thank you to all the patrons of Otherworld. And thank you to anybody else I'm forgetting. Once again, thanks to all of the listeners. This is just the beginning. This show is not easy to make. It's very time-consuming and scary at times. The only reason we do it is because people seem to really like it. So thank you sincerely for tuning in and supporting the show. It's been incredible to watch it grow. It's kind of hard to believe, but honestly, I cannot wait to see where things are going to go from here. Like I said, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to be back on July 10th. Stay tuned for that. And you've been listening to Otherworld.